Hi, I'm Darylyn Brewster from the Washington Centerville Public Library. I'm Adult Services Specialist, and today we're doing Simply Delicious. We're going to do 3 recipes that are quick and easy, under 30 minutes to make, and you're going to love it. So the first one we're going to make is cannoli dip. And for that, you need ricotta cheese. And we're going to use 2 cups of ricotta cheese. It doesn't have to be a name brand. I'm going to tilt my camera up just a little bit. And I'm going to measure it just because it makes me feel more comfortable. This should be 2 cups of ricotta cheese. So, and I'm just using a normal spoon. And I have my 1 cup measure. I am going to pack it down. Get out any air bubbles. I did a few practice rounds, but kind of glad the pandemic is, knock on wood, mostly over. I got to share some with some friends I hadn't seen in a while. Okay, so I filled it up. That's about a cup. And I'm just going to dump it in bottom of my bowl. And then I'm going to fill her up again.
No.
Now, if I was at home, I would probably just have dumped this whole container, because as you can see, about half of it is already gone. And some of the recipes I'm going to do for this program actually come from one of our databases, A to Z World Food. If there's a special treat that you like, it could be food, it could be a dessert, it could be an appetizer. You can log on to whatever country it's from. And type it in, and it'll show you the recipe and give you a little history as well. Okay, so 2 cups it was. I'm going to go ahead and dump my ricotta cheese in here. I just want to make sure I get it all. So that was that. And then we're going to take 8 ounces of cream cheese. And for this, if I'm using, my preferred mixer is my stand mixer at home, but it's very heavy, which is why I did not bring it today. Even using my stand mixer, I still, if I'm using butter or cream cheese, I still cut it into smaller cubes so it's easier to mix. So I'm going to take my knife, and you can do it however you like. I like to cut mine in half. And then I'll cut it in about 4 or 5 lines across those. And then I'm just going to drop those into my mixing bowl. And I like to get all of the cream cheese I can off it. I'm going to throw that away. I also have a handy dandy spatula. You know, this is already soft enough. I might not even need the hand mixer. But since I have it, I'm going to use it. Well, maybe. Okay, I'm going to start on low speed. Actually, I'm going to stop for a second. You want to start on a low speed so that you don't make a mess, especially we're going to add powdered sugar to this. I'm going to submerge them a little bit, my beaters. I'm going to hold it low and I'm going to move it a little bit of a circle. I'm trying not to make a mess. I wish I had one of those overhead cameras where you could see what it looks like. As you mix the two together, they get a little bit more light and fluffy. So I don't know if you can see it, but it's nice and light and fluffy. But I also need to add a cup and a half of powdered sugar. So what I'm actually going to use is I'm going to use my 3/4 of a cup. And I'm just going to fill it twice to make a cup and a half. So I'm going to add that in. I'm going to go ahead and pour my other 3/4 of a cup, but I'm going to wait a little bit. I'm going to mix in the first batch of my powdered sugar into this before I add the second. Because I really would not like to be covered in white powdered sugar. I'm going to set it aside. And remember, we want to put our beaters in, put it on low speed. This is the part where I'm just a little bit afraid. And slowly mix it in. Make sure to go all around the sides of your bowl. And I would use a little momentum with your beater if you're doing a hand mixer. Push that ricotta and cream cheese filling towards the powdered sugar so that it hits it and sticks to it and doesn't blow up in your face. I'm going to add the last 3/4 of a cup. And again, I've got my beaters already in there. I'm going to turn it on low. And you can use whatever powdered sugar you want. Whatever ricotta you want. If you have a favorite brand, you can do that. I really like Domino sugar. And I was only buying a pound, so I went ahead and splurged a few pennies to get the brand. But I usually use Kroger cream cheese and whatever ricotta cheese happens to be on sale. The one thing I didn't do was open the container of vanilla. And I will usually go for pure vanilla rather than imitation vanilla. But I'm also going to tell you a secret. I usually just pour it in. I don't usually measure. Could be because I've been baking since I was little. But for you guys, it calls for a teaspoon of vanilla. I am going to measure it. I have a half teaspoon, so I'm going to do it double. So that's my first half. And this one isn't going to splatter up in my face when I start it, but I'm still going to start on low. This is my second half. Only I can find the lid I just had. I'm going to set it aside and be very careful. Ah, found the lid. And I'm going to blend this in before I add the mini chocolate chips. And that should be about enough blending for that. I'm going to go ahead and pour my chocolate chips. Calls for 1 cup of chocolate chips. And we're using the mini chocolate chips. I'm using semi-sweet, but you could use milk chocolate ones. You could use dark chocolate. It's up to you. Whatever you and whoever you're fixing it for like. Okay, pour that in. And we're almost done. The only thing this is going to need I like to refrigerate mine just a little bit before I serve it, even if I just made it. I don't know why. But my husband likes to eat it straight out of the bowl. And this one is the first of our simple and delicious dishes for the evening.
I'm sorry, I came in a little. I'm sorry, I came in a little late. I just had a question. Was the cream cheese sitting out?
There is one more thing I want to tell you about this. And I will usually serve it I will usually serve it in a waffle cone. So at Kroger's, and no, this is not a Kroger infomercial, but you can get waffle cones for $2.29. And for my last gathering, I use these. They're called Belgian Waffle Butter Crisp. I also found those at Kroger, and they were delicious. They went really quick. But Kroger also sells pizzelles. Now, if you have a waffle maker that flips over and you're inclined, you could make your own pizzelles. The recipe isn't too hard, and I didn't think to combine it today. This is that little interlude that I talked to you about, so I can go clean these so I can do our next one. The next one we're going to do is the Rumkugeln, which is just simply rum balls. I'm going to set this aside. I'll be right back.
I came in late. Do anybody know if the cream cheese set out for an hour or she just got it out the refrigerator? Hello? I don't think.
Okay, so hope you didn't miss me too much. I'm going to dry these just a little bit. I'm going to put a lid on my cannoli dip. Did anybody have a question about the cannoli dip? If not, we're going to chug right along. And you definitely, for storage, you definitely want to store the cannoli dip in the refrigerator. Definitely. All right. Our next recipe is Rumkugeln. Now, I lived in Germany and Austria for about a year and a half. I studied abroad and then I spent some additional time there. And I love a lot of German food. This is a recipe that I got from A to Z World Food. It's one of our research databases. And you can access it if you have a library card for free. This recipe calls for dark chocolate. I'm not a real big fan of dark chocolate. So I am doing semi-sweet. You can also make these if you prefer. What I'm doing, I realized why I had that here so you could see it. So what I'm doing is I am going ahead and I am cutting up. This is Ghirardelli chocolate. It happens to be one of my favorites. And I'm just breaking this up. I'm going to melt it in the microwave. At home, if I was doing a lot of these, I would use my food processor and the grater blade. The other option that works really well is to use a knife. You can take your knife I do it on a chopping block, but I just go ahead and break it into smaller pieces. It doesn't have to be precise. You just take your knife straight down on it and wiggle it back and forth. It doesn't have to be a sharp knife. It can be an ordinary kitchen knife. And I am downsizing this recipe. So I'm cutting this recipe in half. So the recipe usually calls for 10 ounces of dark chocolate. And I'm actually going to combine, so you can do this, don't worry about it. I have 4 ounces of Ghirardelli semi-sweet chocolate. And I'm going to add about, Ghirardelli chocolate just melts down very smoothly. You could also use Wilton chocolate. You can use a Hershey bar. You can use chocolate wafers. The chocolate wafers I'm talking about come in a bag. And I saw Ghirardelli had some white chocolate in a bag and they had dark chocolate in a bag, but they did not have semi-sweet in a bag of the wafers. The wafers come about the size of a nickel and they melt really smoothly. But I am going to take some of our mini chocolate chips that I have left over from the cannoli dip, from the bag that we used for the cannoli dip. And once this is warm, I'm going to add those in. The heat from this melted chocolate should blend really nicely. I am going to, if I was home, I might use a double boiler, but you can also do it real quickly in a microwave safe bowl. I want to make sure I have smaller pieces. If you do grate the chocolate, if you boil some water and pour it into a bowl and set a glass bowl on the top of your hot water, it will melt very quickly. So I'm just going to put this in the microwave for a minute or two. And each microwave is different, so you need to check it. So I would do it for a minute, stir it, and see how it looks. You don't want your chocolate to burn. While that is melting, I'm going to take another bowl. And my recipe calls for half a cup of butter, but I'm only doing half of the recipe. So I'm going to make that a quarter of a cup. So I'm just going to take and measure it out halfway. And like I do with the cream cheese, I also like to cut my butter. This has softened, so it should be easier to blend. Actually, it's going to be perfect to blend because it's softened. And go check my chocolate. Hot tamales. All right. I'm going to set this down here for a second. 1 minute was just enough. This is all melty. And I'm going to go ahead. Remember I said I don't usually measure. That's about right. About an ounce. So I'm going to set that aside. And yes, my children and my friends who want recipes often get annoyed because it doesn't come out quite the same. And those mini chocolate chips have already melted. So I have this really beautiful melted chocolate. And you know what? I think I may just take my butter and put it in here. I'm going to stir it up. Now this recipe calls for you to make the balls pretty quickly after this process. My host mother in Germany would refrigerate it for an hour or so that it was a little bit more moldable. If you dip your hands in ice water, your hands will be cool so you can maneuver it and you're not all covered with chocolate. This also calls for, the regular recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder. But since we cut it in half, we're only going to use 1. And even though I like not to measure some things, I always measure my unsweetened cocoa. It's such a strong flavor. If you don't, you can end up with a mess. And we're just going to go ahead and put that in our bowl. Let me put the lid back on so it doesn't spill. I'm going to go ahead and blend this in with my spoon. Okay, and then it calls for 4 tablespoons of rum for the full batch. This is only half a batch, so I'm going to add 2 tablespoons. And you can use any flavor of rum. And you want to stir this in. If you're using a regular mixer, you want to be careful. Otherwise, the wet liquid can make a mess. So what I'm doing is I'm lifting the chocolate, pushing the chocolate down, making sure to grab some of that loose liquid to get it all incorporated. And this is very soupy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug my microwave, plug in my waffle iron, and I'm going to let this set a little bit because right now it's going to be hard to form balls when it's this wet. But that's our batter for the Rumkugeln. So I'm going to go ahead and use my scraper to get all of the mixture off my spoon. Okay, so I'm going to pour chocolate sprinkles in a container for once the rum balls have cooled. You could use cocoa powder on the outside of the rum balls. You could use powdered sugar. You could use coconut, anything you want. And you could do a mixture. You can set up several different bowls so that you have a variety and you could wrap these up and give them as gifts. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and plug in my waffle iron and let it get warm. So I have ingredients all around the table here. So there is my waffle iron. It is heating up. And I think I put my hand there, that's a little better. I'm going to real quickly take the rum mixture down to the refrigerator so it gets cool. And then we're going to start with our cinnamon roll waffles. So 2 down, 1 to go. I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so cinnamon roll waffles, and we'll come back, we'll finish those. I stuck the Rumkugeln mixture into the freezer to help them firm up a little bit quicker, because this isn't going to take much time at all. For this, we're going to need 1 can of refrigerated Pillsbury Grands cream cheese frosting. I was trying not to make quite such a mess. I already have my waffle maker turned on. These are really quick and they make a great treat. Nice kind of celebration. So while I'm waiting for my waffle iron to heat up, I'm taking out my cream cheese frosting. I'm going to go ahead and leave. I don't have a hand for that, so I'm going to go ahead and make the icing. We want to turn this into a glaze is what we're going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and use my scraper. I brought multiple scrapers, and I'm just going to scrape this in to my bowl. And I'm also going to get the goodies that was on the top. Put that in my bowl. Okay, so we're going to take our powdered sugar. I'm actually going to do 2 halves because my 1 cup is dirty from the ricotta. So I'm going to, and I'm not going to use my hand mixer again. I'm going to mix this with a spoon. So that's a 1/2 cup. At home, I have the great big bag, and it seems like it just pours better than this pours. Supply. Okay. All right, so I've added my 1 cup of powdered sugar. I have my cream cheese frosting from the can, and I'm going to take my spoon, tablespoon, and I'm going to wipe that down. If I was at home, I would probably wash it. Well, there's no probably. I would wash it if I was at home. And I'm going to pour. Oh, no. This is the one I didn't try before. You need 3 tablespoons of milk. I may have to leave you again to go phone a friend. If you have a rubber gripper at home and, oh, look at that. Yes. Yahoo, I don't have to phone a friend. I'm going to pour the milk over a different measuring cup so that I don't accidentally get my icing too wet. I'll knead it up higher than it is. One, 2. My waffle iron is ready, and my icing is almost ready. And 3. I'm going to set this aside. A little bit of a mess. I'm going to go ahead and take my vanilla. It says 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And this is an all-read recipe. I have a friend who has used this, and she's actually made this for her father on Father's Day as a breakfast treat. I always lose that lid. And I'm just going to mix them all together. For a glaze, you don't want it thick. You want to be able to pour it on. I will usually more kind of whip it, lift and whip. Not so it gets bubbles, just so that all the powdered sugar gets mixed in. So you don't have one part that has that cream cheese frosting and one part that's all powdered sugar. So it should make a nice little glaze. Now these do not take very long to bake. But that's the whole reason I'm doing this class. Simple and easy. Okay, so I'm going to move everything out of the way so that you might be able to see just a little bit better. Sorry, I have to tidy up just a hair, so it's eating into my time. But okay, so here is my lovely waffle iron. It is very old. It has been around, I don't know, I've been for a long time. I did spray it down, and I highly recommend if you're using a waffle iron to spray it with Pam. So these are going to take about 3 minutes. You want to make sure that they're golden brown. I'm going to try to reshape it back into I like to put mine right on the middle, and I'm going to squish it. I'm going to look at my clock. So what I am going to do is I'm going to go get, while that's baking, I'm going to run to the refrigerator and grab the Rumkugeln, and we'll be ready to go. I shouldn't peek. Shouldn't peek. Just let it do its thing. Okay. So I have my Rumkugel, and it's set up nicely. I have my plate. And it's been 2 minutes, so it probably needs, she's really good. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and look at the other side. She actually looks pretty good. I'm going to pull her off. She is brown on both sides. And I need the spoon for the Rumkugeln, so I'm just going to use my spatula and drizzle some on. Let's hope she holds up there. So I hope you can see that. But it's very beautiful. It's very quick. I'm going to do one more. And then, oops. I'm going to straighten them out. I am not going to respray because there seems like there was quite enough. And I'm going to press them down. So for shaping the Rumkugel, you can do one of two things. So I have a wonderful scoop, and you can use a spoon. You can shape it with your hands. I find that using a scoop means it's a little bit less of a mess. A little bit. Probably should have let these set just a little bit longer in the fridge. The Rumkugeln definitely need to stay in the refrigerator once they're made. You can even freeze them. My hands are a little. Remember what I said about the ice water? Or you can even have cold water can do it if you've let them sit. I would let the Rumkugeln in the fridge for an hour or so before you roll them into balls so that they set up nicely. And I usually check these with a fork at home, but I forgot to bring the fork home. So that's what I have for you today. Did anybody have any questions?
I had a question with the
Any
cream
questions?
cheese pre.
My hands are cleaning up here.
Was the cream cheese like did it sit out for a while or?
So what we made today was cannoli dip. So 3 or 4 ingredients: ricotta cheese, cream cheese, powdered sugar, vanilla, and mini chocolate chips. And then we went ahead and we made Rumkugeln, which is, the recipe calls for dark chocolate. I used Ghirardelli chocolate, butter, unsweetened cocoa powder, and then you melt that all together, mix it up, add some rum, and then you can use the dip of your choice. Mine, because I like the crunch that it gives it, I like chocolate sprinkles. I've done it with mini M&Ms. I've done it with coconut on the outside. It's delicious. And then cinnamon waffles. Cinnamon roll waffles were real simple. You take grand cinnamon rolls, take the cream cheese frosting, add confectioner's sugar, add vanilla, and add 3 tablespoons of milk. And you have a nice glaze for the top of your waffles. So if there are no questions, if you did not get the recipe, please email me. I'll put it out there so you can have it. All right. I'll talk to you later, guys. Hope you had fun. Hope you learned how to make something. It's really not hard. And as soon as you get some of the waffle cones or the pizzelles to go with that cannoli dip, it goes. It's well loved. It's delicious. So I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun.
All right. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.